Commander Grace Thompson stared at the monitor with tired eyes. She hadn't slept in 36 hours. Not since the strange readings had first appeared on the deep space sensors. The blips had started at the edge of the solar system, moving in ways that defied natural phenomena. "Any change?" she asked, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. Lieutenant Frank Mendez shook his head. "Nothing new, Commander. The objects are still in holding patterns around Jupiter. At current count, we've identified 17 distinct vessels." Grace nodded, taking a sip of lukewarm coffee. The year was 2045, and humanity had established bases on the Moon and Mars, but had barely begun to explore beyond. The arrival of these vessels represented the most significant moment in human history, first contact with an extraterrestrial civilization. "The President wants updates every hour," she said. "The UN Security Council is in emergency session." The secure phone on her desk rang. Grace picked it up on the first ring. "Thompson here. Commander, Dr. Carter's diplomatic team is ready to broadcast the greeting message. The President has given final approval." "Understood. Patch me through to the broadcast center." Across the country at NASA's communication facility, Dr. William Carter stood before a bank of equipment specifically designed for this moment. For years, SETI scientists had debated what humanity's first message to aliens should contain. Now, with aliens actually hovering near Jupiter, those theoretical discussions had become urgently practical. "Are we sure about this?" asked Dr. Samantha Reeves, Carter's deputy. "We don't know anything about them." "That's precisely why we need to communicate," Carter replied, adjusting his glasses. "The message contains basic mathematical sequences, visual representations of humans, and sample audio in multiple languages. It's designed to be as universal as possible." "And if they interpret it as a threat?" Carter had no answer for that. The signal was transmitted at precisely 3:00 p.m. Eastern Time. Then came the waiting. Hours passed with no response from the alien vessels. The world held its breath. At the Pentagon, Grace Thompson watched as analysts scrutinized every movement of the alien ships. "They're changing formation," reported Lieutenant Mendez suddenly. "Breaking away from Jupiter." Grace felt her heart rate accelerate. "Where are they headed?" "Calculating trajectory now." "Commander, they're moving toward Earth. Estimated arrival, time in our orbit, 6 hours. Grace immediately ordered alerts sent to every military command worldwide. "Get me the President," she said, already moving toward the Situation Room. The President's face was grim on the secure video feed. "Dr. Carter reports no response to our communications attempts. These visitors haven't said a word, Commander Thompson." "Mr. President, I recommend we prepare for all contingencies." "Agreed. I've already ordered our space defense systems to ready status, though God knows they weren't designed to repel an interstellar threat." In a laboratory beneath Boston University, engineer Alan Phillips watched the live news coverage with growing concern. His team had been developing experimental defense systems for years, systems that incorporated theoretical principles that most of his colleagues considered fringe science. Now, he wondered if they'd have a chance to test them. "Alan, you should see this," called his colleague, Dr. Lisa Wong. She pointed to her screen, which showed live feed from the International Space Station. The alien ships were visible now, massive structures unlike anything humans had designed. They were asymmetrical, with strange protrusions and surfaces that seemed to shift and change as they moved. "They're beautiful," Lisa whispered. "Let's hope they're peaceful," Alan replied. In Chicago, Grace Thompson's parents watched the news with millions of other Americans. Her father, a Vietnam veteran, felt an instinctive dread. "This isn't right," he muttered to his wife. They should have responded by now. The alien vessels entered Earth orbit at 9:17 p.m. Eastern Time. They positioned themselves above major population centers around the globe: New York, Beijing, London, Moscow, Tokyo, Sydney, Rio de Janeiro, and dozens more. Still, they made no attempt to communicate. At 9:42 p.m., Dr. Carter made one final attempt at communication, broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Earth. We welcome peaceful contact. Please respond." At 9:43 p.m., the Caldraxian Empire launched its first attack. Grace Thompson was in the underground command center when the first reports came in. The screens showed impossible images. Energy beams of intense blue light striking downtown New York, Washington, D.C., Chicago. Buildings crumbled, streets melted. People vanished in flashes of light. "Get me status reports from all commands." Grace shouted over the chaos of the room. "We're launching countermeasures," reported General Ronald Hayes. "But our missiles are being destroyed before they get close to the alien vessels." Within minutes, reports flooded in from around the world. The pattern was the same everywhere. Major cities targeted. Millions dead in the first wave alone. Earth's military forces responded with everything they had, but conventional weapons seemed useless against the alien technology. In his Boston lab, Alan Phillips felt the building shake as the city above him was attacked. Emergency power kicked in as the main grid failed. "We need to save our research," he told Lisa, copying files frantically to portable drives. "Someone's going to need this if humanity survives." A massive explosion rocked the building. Concrete dust filled the air. When Alan regained consciousness, Lisa was dead, crushed under fallen debris. With blood running down his face, he grabbed the drives and made his way toward the emergency exit. Above ground, Boston was unrecognizable. Alien ships hovered lower now, methodically destroying block after block. But as Alan watched in horror, something unexpected happened. A small military jet, likely one of the last airworthy craft in the region, flew directly into the side of one of the alien vessels. The resulting explosion was far larger than it should have been, and the alien ship listed to one side, losing altitude. "They can be hurt," Alan whispered. In the Pentagon bunker, Grace Thompson watched similar reports coming in from around the world. Despite overwhelming technological superiority, the aliens weren't invincible. A Chinese submarine had successfully struck an alien vessel over the South China Sea. Brazilian fighters had managed to bring down a smaller ship over the Amazon. "They underestimated us," Grace said. "They expected us to surrender immediately." "Commander, we've intercepted some kind of transmission between their vessels," reported a communications specialist. "We can't decode it, but the pattern suggests they're adjusting their strategy." Grace nodded grimly. "Then we need to adjust faster. Get me a secure line to all remaining command centers worldwide, and find me scientists who can start analyzing any alien technology we can get our hands on." The first day of the war ended with Earth in flames. Billions were dead or missing. But in bunkers and shelters across the planet, survivors began to organize. And in the ruins of cities, something strange was happening to some of the people who had been exposed to the alien weapons, but survived. The Caldraxians had made a critical mistake. In their arrogance, they had assumed humans were simple creatures who would be easily conquered. They had no idea what their weapons would trigger in human DNA. They had no idea what they had unleashed. 6 months after the initial bombardment, the world was a different place. The Caldraxian forces had established control zones in what used to be major cities. Most survivors lived in scattered camps in rural areas, moving frequently to avoid alien patrols. In the forests of western Colorado, Olivia Martinez led one such group. She had been a Marine Corps captain before the invasion. Now she commanded 37 civilians and 6 former military personnel. They lived in camouflaged shelters and scavenged for supplies from abandoned towns. Olivia crouched in the undergrowth, watching an alien patrol through her binoculars. The Caldraxians walked on 2 legs but had 4 arms and scaly blue-gray skin. They wore armor that seemed to shift colors to match the environment. Their weapons were sleek rifles that fired pulses of the same blue energy that had destroyed Earth cities. "They're following the same route as yesterday," whispered Keith Dawson, her second-in-command. A former police officer, Keith had proven invaluable in training civilians for combat. "Good. Then the plan stays the same," Olivia replied. She touched the radio at her belt. "All teams in position?" 3 clicks came back in response. Her people were ready. Olivia took a deep breath. This would be their first direct engagement with the aliens. Until now, they had focused on avoiding detection and gathering supplies. but intelligence from other resistance groups suggested the aliens were taking human prisoners to unknown locations. This patrol was headed toward a small town where a few families still lived. Olivia couldn't let them be taken. "On my mark," she said into the radio. She counted down from 3 and fired the first shot. The alien at the rear of the patrol fell, purple blood spraying from its head. The others immediately took cover, moving with surprising speed. Olivia's team fired from multiple positions, creating crossfire. 2 more aliens went down, but the remaining 3 returned fire effectively. Blue energy pulses tore through trees and rocks. "Move to Phase 2, Olivia ordered, shifting position. Keith and 2 others threw improvised explosives at the aliens' position. The blasts weren't powerful enough to penetrate their armor, but the smoke and noise created confusion. Olivia led the final charge personally. Her rifle jammed after 1 shot, so she drew her combat knife and leapt at the nearest alien. It was stronger than a human, but Olivia was faster. She drove her knife into a gap in the armor at the neck joint. The alien made a high-pitched keening sound and collapsed. When the smoke cleared, 5 aliens were dead. The 6th was wounded, but alive. "Secure it," Olivia ordered, "and grab all their equipment. We move in 5 minutes." Back at their camp that night, Olivia watched as Alan Phillips examined the alien technology. After escaping from Boston, Alan had wandered for weeks before finding Olivia's group. His engineering expertise had already improved their shelters and communications equipment. "Their weapons are incredible," Alan said, carefully dismantling the rifle. "The power source alone is like nothing I've ever seen. It's not just advanced, it's based on different scientific principles than our technology." "Can we use it?" Olivia asked. "Maybe. Give me time." The captured alien was kept under guard in a separate shelter. Dr. Paul Harrison, a former quantum physicist from Caltech, had been trying to communicate with it. He approached Olivia now, his face showing unusual excitement. "You need to see this," Paul said, leading her to his work area. He had set up a makeshift laboratory using salvaged equipment. On a screen was an analysis of human blood samples, specifically, blood from survivors who had been directly exposed to the alien weapons but somehow lived. "These cellular changes shouldn't be possible," Paul explained, pointing at the screen. "The alien energy weapons are somehow activating dormant sections of human DNA. People who survive direct exposure are changing at a genetic level." "Changing? How?" Olivia asked, concerned. "It varies. Some show increased muscle density. Others developed enhanced neural pathways. One subject's bone density increased by 60% within weeks of exposure." Olivia frowned. "Are they becoming dangerous? Unstable?" "No, quite the opposite. They're becoming enhanced. Better versions of themselves." Paul hesitated. "Olivia, you were hit by energy weapon backwash during the raid. Your blood shows the changes too." Olivia stared at him. She had noticed she needed less sleep lately, and wounds seemed to heal faster. She had attributed it to adrenaline and necessity. "What does this mean for us?" "It means the aliens made a mistake," Paul said. "Their weapons are triggering something in us, something that might have taken thousands of years of evolution to emerge naturally." In an underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Elizabeth Johnson documented similar findings. The former CDC researcher had been part of a government evacuation when the attacks began. Now she led a team studying the physiological effects of alien weapons on survivors. "Subject 27 demonstrates increased synaptic response," she dictated into her recorder. "Reaction times are 40% faster than human baseline. Healing rate continues to accelerate." Subject 27 was a 12-year-old boy named Danny, who had survived when his school was hit by alien weapons. Half his body had been severely burned, but instead of dying, he had begun to heal at an impossible rate. Now his skin showed no signs of scarring, and tests revealed enhanced strength and reflexes. "How are you feeling today, Danny?" Elizabeth asked, setting aside her recorder. "Strong," the boy said simply. "When can I help fight them?" Before Elizabeth could answer, her assistant rushed in. "Dr. Johnson, the sensors just picked up alien aircraft approaching." They're heading directly for us. The facility went into lockdown. From her security monitors, Elizabeth watched as 3 alien ships landed outside. Troops emerged, led by a taller Caldraxian with distinctive markings. Unlike the standard soldiers, this one moved with deliberate precision. In orbit above Earth, Caldraxian scientist Vexthor reported to the Imperial fleet. Preliminary analysis confirms anomalies in human genetic response to our weapons. Some subjects demonstrate accelerated healing and enhanced physical capabilities after exposure. The fleet commander's image flickered on the screen. How serious is this development? Potentially significant, Vexthor replied. These humans possess genetic adaptability beyond anything in our records. If the changes continue to spread and evolve, they could become a genuine threat. Impossible. They are primitive creatures. We destroyed their major power centers within hours. Yet their resistance grows stronger, Vexthor noted. The attack on our patrol was well coordinated. They captured one of our soldiers alive and took our weapons. The commander hissed in displeasure. Find these enhanced humans, study them, determine if they pose a true threat. If so, we will adjust our strategy. As the communication ended, Vexthor looked down at the scarred planet below. The invasion had been meant as a simple resource acquisition. Earth had abundant water and minerals useful to the Empire. Humans were supposed to be an easily managed workforce at best or exterminated at worst. Now Vexthor wondered if the High Command had made a grave miscalculation. Back in Colorado, Olivia Martinez felt stronger each day. She could run faster, hear better, and needed only a few hours of sleep. Others in her group who had been exposed to the alien weapons showed similar changes. And Alan Phillips had successfully modified one of the alien rifles to work with human hands. Time for another raid, Olivia told her team. We're going to hit them back harder this time. The Caldraxians had no idea what they had unleashed. 2 years after the invasion, humanity had changed. The scattered resistance groups had united under the Earth Defense Coalition. Commander Grace Thompson, once a military officer monitoring deep space, now led the strategic operations of the EDC from their hidden headquarters in the mountains of what was once Switzerland. Grace stood before a holographic map showing Caldraxian positions around the globe. The aliens still controlled most major urban centers, but their grip was weakening. Red dots on the map marked successful human attacks over the past month. There were many. The London operation is ready, reported Colonel Jack Winters. Once a British SAS officer, Jack now commanded the European resistance forces. Grace nodded. And Martinez's team? In position. They'll strike when the Caldraxians respond to London. Grace closed her eyes briefly. Since surviving a direct hit from an alien energy weapon during the evacuation of Washington, she had developed an unusual ability. She could sense patterns and anticipate events with uncanny accuracy. Some called it strategic precognition. Whatever it was, it had saved countless lives. They'll send their elite forces to London, she said with certainty. They're growing desperate. The Caldraxian Emperor Zalthrax was indeed growing desperate. In his command ship orbiting Earth, he reviewed the latest reports with mounting anger. How is this possible? He demanded of his advisors. These humans were primitive when we arrived. Their weapons were chemical explosives and basic projectiles. Now they disable our ships and kill our soldiers with increasing efficiency. Vexthor, the scientist who had first warned about human adaptability, spoke carefully. The genetic changes continue to accelerate, Emperor. Each generation of exposed humans shows stronger modifications. And now children born after the invasion display these enhancements from birth. Children? The Emperor's scales darkened with alarm. How many? Thousands, possibly tens of thousands. They mature quickly and their abilities exceed even the enhanced adults. The Emperor slammed his fist down. Send the Vanguard elite to their strongest resistance center. End this problem once and for all. In the ruins of London, Olivia Martinez felt no fear as she watched the massive Caldraxian dropships descend. 2 years of combat had transformed her from a Marine captain into something more. Her muscles were denser, her reflexes faster, her senses sharper. And she wasn't alone. Her team consisted of 20 enhanced humans, all veterans of countless battles against the aliens. They wore armor cobbled together from Caldraxian technology and carried weapons designed by Alan Phillips, hybrid creations that combined alien power sources with human ingenuity. "They've sent their elites," said Keith Dawson, examining the incoming forces through enhanced vision. "Just like Thompson predicted." Olivia smiled grimly. "Good. We've been waiting for a chance to test ourselves against their best." The Caldraxian elites were immediately distinguishable from regular troops. They were larger, with crimson armor and weapons that made the standard alien rifles look like toys. They moved with precision through the ruins, clearly expecting an ambush but confident in their superior strength. "Remember the plan," Olivia said into her comm. "Let them come to the central square." The trap was simple but effective. As the alien force entered the square, explosive charges collapsed the surrounding buildings, trapping them in a kill zone. But the elites reacted with surprising speed, taking cover and returning fire with devastating effect. The battle was unlike anything Earth had seen before. Enhanced humans moved with blinding speed, dodging energy blasts and striking with impossible strength. The Caldraxian elites fought with equal ferocity, their advanced weapons turning concrete to dust. Olivia found herself facing the elite commander, a massive Caldraxian with ceremonial scars across its face. It fired a weapon that sent out not energy pulses but waves of force that shattered everything in their path. Olivia dodged, feeling the air compress around her as the waves passed by. She closed the distance in a series of rapid jumps, using fallen debris as stepping stones. The commander drew a blade that hummed with energy, slashing at her with extraordinary speed. But Olivia was faster. She rolled under the swing and came up with her own knife, a simple human combat blade modified by Alan to disrupt the aliens' energy shields. The blade pierced the commander's armor. Purple blood sprayed out. The Caldraxian roared and struck Olivia with enough force to send her flying into a wall. Pain exploded in her back, but she felt her enhanced body already beginning to heal. The commander advanced, but a burst of fire from Keith forced it back into cover. Olivia reached for her sidearm, a human pistol modified to fire concentrated energy. She took careful aim and fired 3 shots. The first 2 were absorbed by the commander's damaged shields. The third went through its eye. When the battle ended, 17 elite Caldraxians lay dead. 5 humans had fallen, but the victory was clear. For the first time, humans had faced the best the aliens had to offer, and won. In the Rocky Mountain facility, Dr. Elizabeth Johnson watched with amazement as Danny, now 14, demonstrated abilities far beyond even the enhanced adults. He could move objects with his mind, an ability that had appeared in only a handful of the most heavily exposed survivors. "The children are the key," Elizabeth told Grace Thompson over their secure link. "Their developing brains and bodies adapt more completely to the changes. Danny can sense Caldraxian communication somehow. He says they're scared of us now." "They should be," Grace replied. "Operation Phoenix begins tomorrow. We're reclaiming territory on every continent." Alan Phillips had been working non-stop in his laboratory, combining human technology with captured alien tech. With Paul Harrison's help, he had created weapons that could penetrate Caldraxian shields efficiently and vehicles that could outmaneuver alien craft. "The prototype is ready," Alan told Olivia when she returned from London. He led her to a hangar where a sleek aircraft waited. Unlike the bulky alien designs, this craft was streamlined and elegant. "It uses their power source but our design principles. It's faster than anything they have." "Can it reach orbit?" Olivia asked. Alan nodded. "That's the plan. We take the fight to them." In orbit, the Emperor received the news of the elite force's defeat with cold rage. "Begin the orbital bombardment," he ordered. "If we cannot control these humans, we will exterminate them from orbit." "Emperor," Vexthor objected, "our ground forces are still... They are expendable. These humans have become too dangerous." We will sterilize this planet and harvest its resources without their interference. But as the Caldraxian fleet prepared to fire, sensors detected dozens of small craft rising from Earth's surface, human craft, using Caldraxian technology. They were faster and more maneuverable than expected, evading defensive fire with ease. The Emperor watched in disbelief as the first human ships reached his fleet and began attacking with weapons that shouldn't have existed. The humans had not only adapted biologically, they had adapted technologically, taking Caldraxian innovations and improving them. For the first time in the history of the Caldraxian Empire, Emperor Zalthrax felt fear. On the ground, Grace Thompson coordinated the IDO global offensive. Cities were reclaimed, alien outposts fell. The EDC established the first human-controlled zones free from alien occupation. The tide had turned. The Caldraxians had bombed Earth expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had unleashed humanity's true potential. And now, humanity was taking back its world. 5 years after the Caldraxian invasion, Earth had transformed. Most of the planet's surface was back under human control. Cities were being rebuilt with a mix of human and alien technology. The enhanced humans, now called the Awakened, had grown in number and ability. Ryan Bennett stood on the bridge of the Phoenix Rising, humanity's first true starship. Once a commercial airline pilot, Ryan had survived the bombing of San Francisco and emerged with enhanced reflexes that made him the perfect candidate to captain Earth's new vessel. "Final systems check complete," reported his first officer, Linda Gomez. "All stations report ready." Ryan nodded, looking at the view screen that showed Earth below them. The Phoenix Rising had been constructed in secret over the past year, built in an underground facility, and then assembled in orbit. It combined the best of human engineering with reverse-engineered Caldraxian technology. "Send word to Admiral Thompson," Ryan said. "We're ready to begin Operation Starfire." In the EDC headquarters, now operating openly from Geneva, Admiral Grace Thompson received the message with satisfaction. Operation Starfire was her vision, taking the fight beyond Earth's atmosphere to target the Caldraxian orbital platforms that still threatened their planet. "Give Captain Bennett the green light," she told her communications officer, "and alert all ground forces to be ready. The Caldraxians will respond once we hit their platforms." Grace's abilities had grown stronger over the years. She could now sense probable outcomes with remarkable accuracy, giving the EDC a crucial, strategic advantage. The enhanced strategic thinking had earned her rapid promotion to admiral, with oversight of all Earth's military operations. The Phoenix Rising accelerated out of Earth orbit, accompanied by 6 smaller craft. Unlike the bulky Caldraxian vessels, these human ships were sleek and agile, designed for speed and maneuverability rather than brute force. Ryan felt the familiar surge of adrenaline as they approached the first target, a massive orbital weapon, platform the Caldraxians used to threaten population centers on Earth. "Weapons range in 30 seconds, reported his tactical officer, Sam Dixon. "Commence targeting sequence," Ryan ordered. "Remember, we want to disable, not destroy. We need their technology intact." The Phoenix Rising fired its main weapons, hybrid cannons designed by Alan Phillips that combined principles of human precision with Caldraxian energy technology. The beams struck the platform's power core with surgical precision. Alarms blared on the Caldraxian command ship. Emperor Zalthrax watched in disbelief as humans disabled not 1 but 3 orbital platforms in rapid succession. "How did they build such ships?" he demanded of his advisors. "We destroyed their industrial capacity." Vexthor, now the Emperor's reluctant chief advisor on human affairs, spoke carefully. "They adapted, Emperor. They took our technology and improved upon it, and the awakened ones coordinate with unprecedented efficiency. Dispatch the fleet, destroy these human vessels." But the response came too late. The Phoenix Rising and its escort ships had already completed their primary mission, and were executing a complex evasive pattern that Caldraxian targeting systems struggled to track. On Earth, Olivia Martinez led a ground assault on what had once been the Caldraxian headquarters in former Paris. As predicted by Grace Thompson, the aliens had diverted forces to respond to the space attack, leaving their ground base vulnerable. Olivia's team moved with superhuman speed through the alien complex. After 5 years of fighting, they had perfected their tactics against Caldraxian defenses. Her squad consisted entirely of awakened soldiers, each with unique enhancements. Keith Dawson could now sense energy fields, allowing him to detect hidden traps. Lisa Rodriguez had developed enhanced strength that let her tear through alien barricades with her bare hands. "Command center ahead," Keith reported, his eyes closed as he sensed the energy signatures. "Heavy security," Olivia nodded. "Standard formation. Lisa, you're on point." The team breached the command center with practiced efficiency. The Caldraxian defenders fought fiercely but were overwhelmed by the coordinated assault. Within minutes, the humans had secured the facility and its valuable data archives. "Admiral Thompson, target secured," Olivia reported over her comm. "We've captured their central database intact." "Excellent work," Grace replied. "Dr. Harrison is standing by to begin analysis." In his laboratory in Geneva, Dr. Paul Harrison had made remarkable discoveries about the connection between Caldraxian weapons and human DNA. Working with Dr. Elizabeth Johnson, he had identified the specific energy frequencies that triggered the evolutionary changes in humans. "It's as if their weapons key into dormant genetic potential," he explained to a group of EDC scientists. "Each exposure unlocks more abilities, especially in those with certain genetic markers, and the effect is cumulative across generations. But the most extraordinary development is the telepathic connection developing among some of the awakened," added Dr. Johnson. Young Danny, now 17, stood beside her. He had become the most powerful of the awakened, with abilities that extended far beyond physical enhancement. "I can sense others like me," Danny explained. "We can communicate without speaking. During battles, we can coordinate instantly. It gives us a huge advantage." "And you can sense the Caldraxians too?" asked one of the scientists. Danny nodded. "Not their thoughts exactly, but their presence, their intentions. It's how we've been able to anticipate their attacks." In orbit, the Phoenix Rising completed its mission despite heavy Caldraxian resistance. As Ryan Bennett ordered the ship to return to Earth, his sensors officer called out an alarm. "Captain, we're detecting a massive energy buildup in the Caldraxian fleet. They appear to be preparing for a coordinated bombardment of Earth." Ryan immediately opened a channel to Admiral Thompson. "Admiral, the Caldraxians are positioning for a planet-wide attack. Our shields won't stop that much firepower." Grace closed, her eyes accessing her enhanced strategic sense. "They're desperate," she said. "Emperor Zalthrax has decided to glass the planet rather than lose it." "Orders, Admiral? Implement Emergency Protocol Omega. We need to buy time for the ground teams to activate the planetary shield network." On the Caldraxian command ship, Emperor Zalthrax prepared to give the order that would end human resistance once and for all. "Target all remaining population centers," he commanded. "Maximum power to weapons." But before the order could be carried out, alarms sounded throughout the ship. "Emperor, multiple human vessels approaching from behind the moon." Vexthor stared at the tactical display in shock. Dozens of ships larger than the Phoenix Rising emerged from hiding places around Earth's solar system. The humans had been building a fleet in secret, preparing for this moment. "Impossible," whispered the Emperor. On Earth, Olivia Martinez and her team activated the final nodes of the planetary shield network from the captured Caldraxian base. Designed by Alan Phillips using technologies from both species, the shield would protect Earth from bombardment. In his laboratory, Danny suddenly stiffened. "Dr. Harrison," he said urgently, "I can sense something. There are other ships coming. Not human, not Caldraxian." Dr. Harrison looked alarmed. "Hostile?" "I don't think so. They're responding to us, to the awakened." As the human and Caldraxian fleets prepared for what might be the final battle of the war, new signals appeared on both sides' sensors. Ships of unknown design dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Saturn. They were enormous, dwarfing even the largest Caldraxian vessels. A message broadcast simultaneously to all ships and to Earth. We have been watching. The test is complete. Humanity has proven worthy. The war for Earth was about to take an unexpected turn. 10 years after the Caldraxian invasion, Earth had become something no one could have imagined. The planet was no longer just the home of humanity, but the center of a growing interstellar alliance. The mysterious ships that had appeared during the final battle belonged to the Araxians, an ancient species that had been watching humanity for centuries. Admiral Grace Thompson stood in the grand chamber of the newly constructed Galactic Council building in Geneva. Representatives from 7 alien species sat around a circular table, with humans given equal standing among them. She still found it hard to believe how much had changed in a decade. The Caldraxian Empire continues to withdraw from the disputed sectors, reported Captain Ryan Bennett. His ship, the Phoenix Rising, had become the flagship of Earth's now substantial fleet. 3 more worlds have requested to join our alliance this month alone. Grace nodded. And their populations? All species previously conquered by the Caldraxians. They see Earth as a symbol of resistance. The Araxians had explained everything after their dramatic arrival. For millennia, they had observed developing species across the galaxy. When the Caldraxian Empire began its expansion 500 years ago, the Araxians decided to conduct a test. They would not directly interfere, but would watch to see if any species could successfully resist the Caldraxian conquest. Earth had been the first to succeed. The Caldraxian weapons, it turned out, had been subtly influenced by ancient Araxian technology. The effects on human DNA were not entirely accidental. In a research facility outside Geneva, Dr. Elizabeth Johnson continued her work with the awakened. Danny, now 22, sat in a specialized chamber as sensors monitored his brain activity. His abilities had continued to evolve, as had those of all the awakened. Nearly 15% of Earth's surviving population now showed some level of enhancement. The connection is getting stronger, Danny said as the test concluded. I can sense the others more clearly now, even across greater distances. Elizabeth made notes on her tablet. And the children born to 2 awakened parents? They're different. From the beginning. They don't need exposure to the energy fields. The changes are part of them from birth. This new generation represented humanity's future, a species evolving at an unprecedented rate, not through natural selection but through technological intervention and their own adaptive response to crisis. Olivia Martinez had found a new role in this changed world. She led diplomatic missions to worlds seeking to join the alliance, her enhanced abilities making her uniquely qualified to sense deception or danger. Today she stood on the surface of Altaris, a planet recently freed from Caldraxian control. Earth was like your world once, she told the gathered Altarian leaders. Their 4-armed bodies resembled the Caldraxians, though their skin was green, rather than blue-gray. We were attacked without warning, our cities destroyed, but we adapted and survived. The Caldraxians ruled our world for 3 centuries, said the Altarian Prime Speaker. How did humans achieve in 10 years what we could not in 300? We had help, though we didn't know it at the time, Olivia replied. But more importantly, we never stopped fighting, even when victory seemed impossible. In orbit above, Altaris, Alan Phillips worked on the newest generation of hybrid technology. After the war, he had focused on peaceful applications of the combined human and alien science. His innovations had helped rebuild Earth, and now were helping other worlds. The atmospheric processors are ready, he informed Olivia via comm. Once installed, they should make the polluted regions habitable again within a year. The Altarians will be grateful, Olivia replied. Their people have been confined to the northern continent since the Caldraxians strip-mined the south, so. The Caldraxian homeworld, Emperor Zalthrax faced the unthinkable, a formal surrender treaty. His once mighty empire had crumbled as subject worlds rebelled, and his fleets were defeated by human-led forces. Now, human and Araxian ships orbited his capital planet. You understand the terms? asked Dr. Paul Harrison, who had been selected. As Earth's representative for this historic moment, the Emperor's scales had dulled with age and stress. Our military disbanded, reparations to all worlds we conquered, and submission to Araxian oversight for 100 years. Those are the, terms, Paul confirmed. The alternative is continued war against the Alliance, a war you cannot win. Zalthrax signed the treaty with a claw that trembled with rage or perhaps fear. You humans, he said bitterly. We should have destroyed your planet from orbit the moment we arrived. Perhaps, Paul agreed, but then you would never have seen what you unleashed. As the treaty was formalized, Dr. Harrison couldn't help but reflect on the irony. The Caldraxians had come to conquer a supposedly primitive world and had instead created their own, most formidable enemy. Human adaptability, once triggered by crisis, had proven more powerful than any technology. Back on Earth, a special ceremony took place at the EDC headquarters. The original survivors who had formed the first resistance cells were being honored. Grace Thompson, Olivia Martinez, Alan Phillips, and the others who had led humanity through its darkest hours stood before a grateful world. 10 years ago, we faced extinction, Grace said to the assembled crowd and the billions watching via global broadcast. Today, we stand at the beginning of a new chapter for our species. The stars are open to us now, not as conquerors like the Caldraxians, but as explorers and allies to other worlds. Danny stood among a group of young awakened. They represented the future, humans whose potential had been unlocked by the very weapons meant to destroy them. Already, some of them were developing abilities that surprised even the Araxians. As the ceremony ended, Grace met privately with the Araxian High Observer, a tall, silvery being who had revealed that his people had been watching Earth for over 50,000 years. You knew what would happen when the Caldraxians attacked us, Grace said. It wasn't a question. We suspected, the observer replied. Your species has unique genetic markers. We have seen potential in humans that exists in no other species we have encountered. You could have prevented the invasion, saved billions of lives. The observer's expression was unreadable. Would humanity be where it is now if we had? Sometimes growth requires challenge. Sometimes potential remains dormant until crisis demands its awakening. Grace couldn't argue with the results. In just 10 years, humans had gone from a single planet species to a major galactic power. The awakened were evolving abilities that even the ancient Araxians found remarkable. Children born to awakened parents showed even greater potential. What happens now? She asked. Now, said the observer, humanity takes its place among the stars, and we watch with great interest to see what you will become. That night, Grace stood on the balcony of her Geneva apartment, looking up at the stars. Among them were human ships exploring sectors of space never before seen by Earth eyes. There were human colonies being established on suitable planets. There were allies and former enemies and countless new species yet to be encountered. The Caldraxians had bombed Earth, thinking they would find an easy conquest. Instead, they had unleashed humanity's true potential, and the galaxy would never be the same.